Hey everyone, and welcome to an On a Water Break bonus episode. I'm Steven, and this is the bonus water break where we sit down with one guest and dive deep into their life and their experience in the marching arts. This time we go on a water break with Julie Davila.
8 off the mat and go.
Welcome to On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk everything marching arts.
Everyone, bring it in. It's time for a water break.
All right, everyone, and welcome to the On a Water Break bonus episode. And before we go see who's on the sidelines this week, please subscribe, hit the notifications on your favorite listening app, write us a review, or share it with a friend. And if you've got a good question, a good topic you think we should talk about, you can email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on social media and DM us if you want to be on the show. We've even got a form now. You could fill it out if you want to be a guest. We love having people on the podcast, so check it out at the link in the bio on our social media page at On a Water Break. And let's see who is joining me on the sidelines this week. We have Anne Turner.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be back.
Friend of the show. If you haven't listened to a podcast with Anne before, we've got a performer spotlight, I think from, was that 2023 or 2022? Probably 2023, right?
Yeah, probably 23, but all the years, they're kind of the same at this point.
Starting to get back there a little bit. We're no longer recent age outs, but Anne and I marched together at Crown in 2019, and happy to have her back on the call today here. And we've kept our guests on the bleachers for long enough, but now come on down to the sidelines and let's welcome Julie Davila to our call. Julie, thank you for hopping on. Yeah, we're super happy to have you on the call here joining us today. Really awesome to get the chance to speak with you. I've been judged by you so many times in so many of my drum lines. It's really an honor to have you on the call.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm always a little nervous when somebody says that.
It sounds like mean. There's like a bad tone to it, but it's really like, I don't mean it with any negative connotation. It's awesome. Super an honor to have you on here. So we always kick off the calls with my favorite part of the show, the 32 count life story. And in that segment, we ask our guests to tell us their story in 32 counts, everything from the beginning of your marching career all the way to what you ate for breakfast this morning. You'll get 8 and in off the mat. You ready to give it a shot?
I'm ready to give it a shot.
All right, here you go.
I gotta get my sticks. Hold on. I gotta get sticks out. I gotta do sticks out here.
Julie,
all right,
set.
I'm ready. What tempo are we at? I gotta know how fast I gotta go.
60 BPM.
What is it?
It's 60 BPM.
Okay, cool. Woo, sticks out. Okay, so just real quick, I was born a Pisces. That means I love to be in and around and near water. I was water skiing as a seven-year-old, big time, along with my drumming, kind of a jock. Played basketball, ran track, did all that kind of stuff. I was born a Hoosier, so big Bobby Knight fan, and basketball is in my blood. I had 2 older brothers, so if I wanted to play, I had to be scrappy. High school, I went to Blue Springs, marched in the Macy's Parade, marched in the Rose Bowl Parade. I went to college in Missouri for 2 years, transferred to UNT, go Mean Green. Changed my life, definitely. Heavily involved in drumline. I played in a steel band. Am I done? 32 counts?
That 32 goes quick, but I want you to keep going.
Okay, real quick. So I played in a professional steel band in Dallas for 3-4 years. Became a member of PAS in 95. Won the PAS Keyboard Individuals with Marimba Spiritual. And a couple years later, I recently served a PAS past president. I feel like I still need to talk fast, but I guess I don't.
You don't have to now.
I am currently now a immediate past president. I find myself, I'm a teacher, counselor, mother, daughter, sister, wife, niece, aunt, and friend. I have 25 years plus, closer to 30, in the marching arts with WGI, DCI. Was inducted into the WGI Hall of Fame in 2014. I'm privileged to travel in the world with 2 of my dearest friends in the Kaisha Percussion trio. And most importantly, I feel like I still have a great spirit for pursuing life, learning experiences, and to stay at it, as long as I can. So still loving life, excited to be here. And that's kind of my life in 64 counts.
Well, some people need 8 bars. Some people need a lot more than just 32 counts. And I definitely had a feeling coming into the call that you would be one of those guests. But
yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So as a kid, you definitely had lots of interests. I also grew up by the water, so I know what it's like to love having an ocean, a pool, something like that nearby. But was there a defining moment where you knew, okay, I really like doing all of these other things, but the marching arts or percussion really has this grip on me and I need to follow it? So I'm not sure if you can recall a moment from when you were younger that you knew that percussion was something that you wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that's a great question, Anne. Thanks. I think to be quite honest, I don't think there's a singular defining moment. I think I was kind of destined, to be honest. I just when I was younger, before I ever got into formal percussion lessons, I would listen to the radio, and I don't know why my family had a tambourine, but we had a tambourine, and I tried to kind of build the drum set around it. I tried to make a pedal to hit the head of the tambourine to be a kick
Hmm.
drum, and then use household things. And I don't even know what age I was. I was elementary school and that for sure. So I was always drawn heavily to percussion, to music. I think honestly, right away, middle school into high school, I just always knew that's where I didn't really have. I had a lot of other interests, like in athletics and things like that, but I knew where my streamline focus was going to be in music.
Was there anything along the way? I always feel like it was my first WGI competitive drumline in 2014 in high school where it like a switch flipped. And then I knew like I was on a different road when it came to percussion. Was there any moment in your career or your time as a student where you felt the same way?
Yeah, again, I feel like it really started at a young age. When I was in middle school, I was asked to play drum set in like the show choir and the jazz band and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't have a drum set. So I told my teachers, I was like, "Give me the weekend, and I'll have a drum set on Monday." And so I did. My parents bought me a blue Vistalite Ludwig drum set, and on Monday I had a drum set. And I just honestly had great teachers. I had really motivating, good people, good teachers, and that was probably pivotal. I really started out mostly on drum set my first like 3 or 4 years. Certainly, North Texas was a huge turning point for me. I used to go to a bunch of Maynard Ferguson concerts in middle school and high school. And when he would introduce the band, everybody was from North Texas. And I was like, huh, what's this North Texas thing they speak of? And and so that was always kind of what I thought would be a reach. Maybe would it be possible? Question mark, not really sure. But fortunately, I had a really good teacher in my sophomore year in college at a school in Missouri who was really encouraging me to kind of reach a little further. And so that was a pivotal moment because everything that came out of North Texas was just amazing. The drumline experience, just being around. I mean, everybody at that time was kind of in Phantom mostly. That was like the John Wooten, Lalo, my husband was teaching, Marty Hurley, those years. So drum corps was a big deal. The drumline there was competed at PASIC and winning a lot of like what they call national PAS national championships.
Hmm.
All the things. I fell in love with steel band. So just yeah, everything about North Texas was certainly pivotal, and I had really great teachers and a community. Everybody feels like their decade or their time at a school like that is like, oh, it had to be the best. Yeah, it was the best. That was the best.
But it
So I
was the
know that.
best, is what I'm hearing.
What's that?
But it was the best,
It
is
was
what I'm
pretty
hearing.
strong. It was pretty strong. Yeah, it was a pretty magical time with just the people, not only the program, but the people we got to be around. So.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what it is at UNT, that area, or specifically like the education you received there that you think sets it apart from, either other parts of the country or maybe other music schools?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of great music schools now for sure. I think it was North Texas, amongst a handful of other really, really strong percussion programs, was still a part of a small group of like phenomenal programs. I think, our main teacher there was Dr. Robert Shatroma, and his work ethic and his like, I wouldn't say discipline, but like the expectation. That's the word I'm looking for. His expectation was so high in everything that we did that he held us to such a high standard. And it was kind of a sink or swim situation. I mean, I knew a lot of students that came in and didn't hang. And it wasn't necessarily a talent based thing. It was somewhat of a mindset too. He kind of really helped us, in a creative way, kind of be strong, like to persevere and to have a lot of grit, to be professional, be accountable. So the expectation was high. And I feel like, just surrounded by great people. I mean, some of the graduate assistants and even my undergrad colleagues at the time were just remarkable players. So it's kind of like that rising tide raises all boats. Just that environment was just remarkable.
Yeah, it sounds like your time at UNT definitely gave you a lot of percussion knowledge, but also maybe life skills. Is there anything
100%.
specific at UNT that you've sort of carried with you through your career that maybe influenced your judging or your teaching style?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I think from a mechanics of percussion, I think, I played in the drum line, I played snare line. I was in the snare line. I played in the front ensemble. I was front ensemble caption or section leader. Played in the steel bands. Took advantage of everything world percussion that I could do. So I think I played a lot of drum set. That was kind of my main instrument to start with. So I think just having that versatility of experiences now when I went into adjudicating, I think really helped me. I felt like I had something to offer both in the front ensemble and the battery.
Mm-hmm.
And life experiences, like I was in both of those sections. So I think that's been an advantage for me. And then I would also say, Roll-Off Productions publishing company started back in the early 90s when I moved to Nashville. And they were two really good friends, Chris Brooks, Chris Crockwell. They reached out to a handful of us in the Nashville area. Chris Croc was UNT. He went to UNT for a few years. And so we kind of got together on that end just as kind of alumni. And when he started the publishing company, he asked my husband and I to start writing, to be contributing writers, and he would publish our thing. So like out of that came my tenor book. And in the beginning, a lot of marching percussion features. And so I think, just it's interesting that UNT like family tree is always kind of like something that is a conduit, connects people. And so I was really, really fortunate to kind of just be in the right place at the right time for that as well. Because there was no one else publishing percussion music at that time, really.
Interesting. Well, that does kind of lead me towards another thing I wanted to speak to you about. I was listening to your piece, Faith and Fortitude, which I think has been shared a lot recently. Would you be able to let us know a little bit about the inspiration behind that composition and maybe how it connects more to you personally?
Sure. That's a great question. I hope I can get through it. I'll try to make it kind of quick, but yeah, that piece is kind of a 5-year process. Probably I started it. I hadn't really written any like big percussion orchestra type piece before, and I want to kind of take a stab at that. So I kind of started, I was dabbling in some ideas. I had it probably about 40, 45, 50%. I wouldn't say done, but I had about 45, 50% of material. And then our youngest daughter got really sick. I went through a pretty life challenging for all of us health scare where she was in, it was really like a 2-year period, but I mean, it was really serious. And so, and she was living in LA at the time. So I was out there for 2 full years, but then when she got sick, I was just out there a lot. And in one of her recovery seasons, which were always about 3 months, she had two situations where she had 3 months of recovery. She really just couldn't hardly do anything, couldn't leave the apartment. So besides doing puzzles and watching movies, I kind of kept opening up this piece, and kind of playing around with it. And I'd add a little bit more. And then I'm really bad at naming things. So when I was kind of getting close, about halfway through the piece, I felt like this experience was kind of resonating with me, going through this life journey with her. And I noticed that I started the piece with a 5-note sequence. And I just kind of played on everything 5-note sequence, 5/4 time, 5/8 time, 5-lits. And I just kind of that was one of the inspirations. And when I was starting to think about naming the piece, I thought about the word faith and how much fortitude that Marissa, our daughter, had to have to tackle this really in her very early 20s, this significant life challenge. And I realized that faith had 5 letters. So then I decided that title, just kind of faith and fortitude, came to me. And there's a middle section that's very drummy, very angsty, and that's kind of how we felt at times in our journey. And as I got to the end of the piece, I decided that the title of the piece kind of inspired the end of the piece, because what I did is I took those 5 notes and I reversed them. And so in the program notes, it'll say, like, with faith and fortitude, you can turn anything around. So I turned those notes around. And that's kind of how I came to kind of the arch to that whole experience.
Wow. That is an amazing story. I'm very happy to hear, at least I'm presuming that at the other end of the medical journey here, she is doing better.
Yeah, she's doing really well.
So it's so meaningful to tie that into like such a grand composition that's like so personal to you and your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. We're going to get a couple reps here and get a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll come back and we'll ask some more questions before we get into our other bits.
Celebrating its 25th anniversary, Guard Closet was founded as a consignment shop in 2000. Since then, it has grown to become your one-stop shop for the marching arts.
Do you need consignment uniforms, flags for your color guard, marching band, or drumline? We have thousands of sets of consignments in stock and ready to ship.
Do you need show design and custom choreography? Our designers have years of experience in the marching arts.
Do you need to sell your items and clear out your storage areas? We take in more than 600 sets of consignments each year and return hundreds of thousands of dollars to our consigners for their sales.
Do you need to have your students order shoes, gloves, and other equipment? We can set up a microsite for easy student ordering of a wide variety of items.
Do you need custom costumes or flags? We can help get you great designs from our team through top vendors like Show Day Designs.
Have you listened to our podcast, On a Water Break? Weekly episodes and bonus content keep you entertained and informed with what's going on in the marching arts.
For over 25 years, Guard Closet has been here to help. Check us out at guardcloset.com or follow us on social media.
And we're back. Thanks for joining us back on the sidelines after a good rep out there. Grab the water bottles and let's get back into it here with Julie Davila. And Anne, I believe you had the next question for us, right?
Yeah, so right before the break, we got to talk to you a little bit about some of your arranging experience, more of the keyboard instruments. So I wanted to sort of tie that into our DCI front ensembles. I was wondering, what qualities do you find in consistently high achieving front ensembles? When is it too many notes? And when makes an orchestration sound minimal but purposeful?
Wow. Yeah. I think I heard most of the question. Are you asking basically kind of like what makes... Well, I'll just go off. Okay. So I think this goes for any marching ensemble, like WGI, DCI. There's a lot of similarities in terms of the front ensemble writing and orchestration, and the difference in DCI. Of course, you have the brass as well to consider. But what I've noticed, and it's funny because I just judged this weekend on the East Coast, a big power regional, and what I try to communicate is, particularly in, I guess this isn't so much DCI, but in younger groups, like just sometimes less is more in terms of, what can be, if there's a primary line or a melody that needs to be present, it's just like making sure there's enough number of players on that part to that so it can be heard, that everything else is balanced around it. It's just making it primary. So I think sometimes what I see in WGI, I would say more than DCI, is sometimes younger arrangers writing so many layers, so many parts that there's just like not one thing is clear, and definitely then we have to ask the question, what is primary in this moment? in DCI, there were just so many good arrangers and, that are so good at that. I think, groups that, so many of these groups do this, just have a touch spectrum that is awesome, that they certainly, almost all the groups have great facility to play all the technical language, like triple-laterals and, all the things. But, the ones I feel like that are really memorable are the ones that can weave that technical language into really expressive musical phrasing and, a sonority within the ensemble of touch that is just at a really mature, high level. So I think it's the ones that can merge technique and musicality, the ones that even as things are integrated with the brass or the battery, there's synergy, there's a really meaningful collaboration between all the colors and all the lines. It just doesn't sit on top of it. It's been integral, and it's in the textures of the orchestration.
Yeah, so really having an orchestration that highlights the full percussion ensemble and not just individual sections.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. So while you started in the music caption, throughout your judging career, I think you've been able to adjudicate a couple different subcaptions. Do you have a favorite subcaption to judge, and is there one maybe that stands out as being more difficult than the others?
I think they're all challenging in different ways.
I bet.
Yeah, I think, music is kind of my home. I feel comfortable in that. But I've really enjoyed, particularly in DCI, I've enjoyed the opportunity to do MA, music analysis, music ensemble, and speak to the entire core. That in the beginning, that was really challenging. I felt like I was a little insecure just in the, I judged 20 plus years in WGI and it felt pretty good about all the percussion language and understanding. And so switching to that music ensemble caption was a welcome challenge. But, in the end, I was like, music is music, ensemble is ensemble. So whether it's a percussion ensemble, a wind ensemble, a drum corps, most of the music making principles are the same. So I'm really grateful for those experiences. I've done quite a bit as well, and particularly in WGI on effect music. And it's been really fun to kind of break out a little bit, keep putting tools in my toolbox.
Yeah, certainly.
Learn from my colleagues.
You've been getting into even bigger roles in the judging world, which we'll get into in a second. But I do have one quick question. As a bass drummer, I've actually always felt like the success of my run, particularly in drum corps, was more tied to the music ensemble or the music analysis score than it was to the percussion score at times. Because more often than not, percussion score at least feels like it gets locked in on like the marimbas, the snares, certain voices speak really presently and how that gets evaluated. But bass drums speak so front to back, and they're so responsible, or at least they're a huge part of ensemble alignment. What's your take on as a judge on that idea? Because I can remember Anne and I feeling that on tour and probably being judged by you at some point.
Yeah. I think you're right. Bass drum is like you're all soloists. Super challenging. But I think the roles and the functions, there's many, right? Sometimes it's just holding down tempo. Other times, with the nature of the writing now, it can be super melodic. So it can sometimes, it quickly can transfer in a phrase from being something that's sort of an anchor from a tempo standpoint into like a really cool pairing melodically.
Yeah.
And then, obviously providing tons of impact. I think the bass drums are a huge color in the ensemble that, it's just, there's opportunities to be super creative in that way. And the bass drum lines of today are insane. They're just insane,
I certainly agree, but I could derail our entire conversation and talk to you for 2 hours about bass drum. So I'll let Anne get on with the next one.
Yeah, you got to be careful putting two bass drummers in the same call. We'll get stuck on one topic. But speaking of your judging, I know that you've just started to take on a brand new role. You're the Judge Administrator for DCI now. And I was wondering if there's anything specific that motivated you to take on this new role, and if there's anything that you're most excited about to bring to this position.
Yeah, well, I honestly have to say I didn't go after that role. So when I was kind of approached about it, at first I was pretty hesitant. I mean, the John Phillips, who's been in there for 24 years, has just done an amazing job, quarter of a century of knowing how to do that job. It's a tricky job, right? Because it's like you're the administrator to the judge roster and community, and you're also the liaison to all the designers and the core directors. And so, you've got to build a lot of trust with that. And so it was pretty daunting. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that, but after several conversations in about 3 months of Zoom interviews and phone calls and talking with some people that I, really mentors of mine, just to talk through the situation, I felt like I came to a place that, maybe I could do this, and then John was super professional and welcoming. We kind of set it up so that I'm going to be his successor. So this season, 2025, he is still chief judge as well, and he's kind of mentoring me and providing onboarding for me to kind of teach me the ropes a little bit, and then in 2026, I'll kind of fully move into that role. But I think for me, in everything that I do, whether it's teaching or even being a mom, judging, whatever, I feel like my mindset is always like, kind of like, I remember, I don't know if they still say this in drum corps, but like when we'd go into schools, and we'd have to clean up afterwards, and they're like, leave it better than you found it. That was our mantra.
They still say that.
Yeah, leave it better than you found it. And so that's kind of my life. Like I'm kind of driven by that. Can I leave this better than I found it? Can I move the needle forward just a little bit in a positive way? And so I think that's what drives me a little bit in this regard. And I think the judge roster's phenomenal, and they've been encouraging, and I think we're going to be able to work together really well. And of course, just create, my first step is to try to build trust and build some relationships. John did that for 24 years, so I'm just getting started. But yeah, I think DCI creatively is so exciting and such a neat, activity to play a small part in. So I'm super excited about just trying to make it a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're definitely going to have a lot of capacity to influence stuff and make things evolve into what the next version of DCI or judging is going to look like. As you step into that role, how do you prepare judges to balance tradition with innovation in the activity?
Yeah, I think it's, in anything that people do, if you've done it for a really long time, you could perhaps settle into a comfortability that is not innovative. But I do think the philosophy in the judges is, and we do a lot of training. We're actually in the middle of training, putting all of our training materials together right now. And I think the overall philosophy is, a lot of the judges on the roster, I'd say the majority all have a growth mindset. We're not stagnant. They're not stagnant. They don't, they don't get sort of pigeonholed into one mindset. And so I think just trying to encourage great conversation, great curiosity. I think curiosity is a really great principle to kind of live by. There's a behavioral science author, Adam Grant. Probably a lot of people know of Adam Grant. He wrote a book called Think Again. And that book is really all about asking good questions and staying curious. So if something's done one way and it's like it's been done that way for a long time, how can we think again? How can we stay curious? What if, I love the word what if we did this? What if we did that? I'm definitely a dreamer. I'm a big dreamer. So I'm going to come to a meeting and I'm going to have 12 ideas and one or two are going to be good. But perhaps the conversation around the 12 ideas might spur some really great conversation, brainstorming, another angle to take. So I kind of like to just kind of throw the paint on the canvas and see what happens.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a bunch of people that you can bounce ideas off of and sort of see what grows from that.
Sure.
So to sort of wrap up this portion of our interview, I just wanted to say that you have absolutely been a pioneer for women in percussion and judging in this activity. And speaking of ideas, I was wondering if you had any ideas about how DCI could further support and inclusivity and diversity in the judging community, and if you had any recommendations of where to look for any sort of resources for maybe people who are aspiring judges.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, DCI actually started a program a couple years ago called the Judge Diversity Initiative. And so we're actually actively trying to provide those opportunities for everybody at the table, everybody to have a seat at the table. And so while, what does that mean? That means that we all know lots of people, right? So there is that question, like, how do you get on the DCI roster? What are the steps to take? And I think a lot of people are intimidated by that and they don't know what to do. And so I think we have kind of a team that's doing some, what we call JDI, where they're seeking out through just our community of really great music educators, really great musicians, really great band directors, or musicians, that might be great DCI judges. And so we're seeing more women being kind of recruited into the program. Some phenomenal women. We've got some great women coming into the program, people of all diverse backgrounds. And so we're really excited about our JD. I think that's a great question. And I'm excited to say we're doing it. We know that needs to happen, and we're kind of working towards that. In terms of resources, to be honest, there aren't a lot. And that's definitely something that's been on my mind the last few years, of maybe kind of holding some Zoom open houses where, 3 or 4 of us women that judge DCI or judge in WGI kind of just hold an open house for women that are aspiring to maybe do that, either maybe not presently or in the future, and just talk about what does that mean. I mean, it is a little bit challenging at times to be a woman in the activity that's so heavily male dominated. And so I think having those conversations could be really healthy and really hopefully inspiring, and just like provide a safe space so women aren't, so fearful that they don't try.
Yeah, I think that would be an awesome thing to put together. This past fall, I judged visual analysis for the first time, and you get lucky depending on the part of the country you live in. If you live in SoCal, maybe you have a couple judges trainings to go to for the local circuits down there, but over here on the East Coast, there's nothing. So it's just a lot of texting old instructors, people that I know, and sort of gathering information. So I think it'd be really cool to have some recorded media out there that people can go and reference if it's their first, second, third time and trying to get out there and judge.
Sure. Yeah. I always tell everybody, I was like, I'm always happy to, do anything I can. So if somebody's out there and they want to jump on a call, I'm happy to share what I know. And, but yeah, maybe kind of orchestrating something that can reach the masses, that might be really, something I look forward to doing in the future.
And we would look forward to helping promote it. If you ever get anything going like that, let us know. We will absolutely help share that resource or event or whatever you're putting together.
Awesome. Great.
But now that we've gotten to know you a little bit better, we want to know one of the central questions to our podcast. And that is, what part of the marching arts are you, Julie?
Drum roll, please. I think we should split it since you guys are bass drummers. Let's split it. Okay. I think this is so cliche, but I have two answers to this. I'm a drum major for sure.
Okay.
And a bus driver.
All right.
Drive the bus, which is great. I think they're very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to drive the bus. What's the bus? Is it WGI? Is it DCI? Is it MTSU where I teach? Is it my family? I feel like I drive the bus. And I'm just
getting people there on time.
What's that?
You're getting people where they need to go on time.
I don't know about the on time thing, but with spirit, yes. But I feel like I've always kind of had that sort of nerd out on like leadership things and just taking the lead and kind of stuff like that. Hopefully I don't want to over dominate in that regard, but yeah, I feel like that's my nature.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? All right. Well, now it's time to switch things up a little bit, get into what are we doing. Julie, the way this segment works is we ask a question. Maybe it's you've got a hot take or maybe just something that you think we could do better as an activity. I'll kick us off because I've got one. I'll say, what are we doing comparing scores across competitions? I know it's fun to do it. We want to make our rankings, but have you seen that there's this Instagram page? It's called Drum Rank that I think has come out maybe this season.
I heard a little chatter about it. I don't know. I think because of the nature of where we are in technology in today's world with having, social media and all that plays a part of everything. I think people just have too much time on their hands and
a little bit.
And publicly want to chat about it and have an opinion about it. And that's great. But I think, and this is a way back when I was teaching WGI, look, our student, this was prior when I was teaching my WGI groups, there was no internet right there. Sorry, I'm really dating myself here, but we didn't know what was going to happen till we were all under the same roof at the same competition, and then that was what it was. And so I think trying to, I feel like it's kind of going into like what the NBA or the NCAA, like the newscasters that sit around the table and talk about,
like we have a 24/7 news cycle about
WGI.
And like,
oh, this person,
Did you hear this about Mike Jackson? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, to each his own. I guess they can have a conversation about it, but I think trying to compare scores is kind of void. Like it just, and even we use the term contest dynamics. So it's while we all judge on kind of a national standard, and yes, we have an understanding of what the national standard is, that until you put those groups at the same venue, the same elements that night, live performance that day, every live performance is different. There's no way to really determine what's going to happen, until everybody's at the show.
Yeah, I always agree. And it's like, obviously it's fun to look at it, but I just think it's a little funny when people get too caught up in like, I just got done my show. Do I want to be excited about my performance with my friends, or do I want to like go see if this drum line from across the country is competing today? And if they happen to get a higher number on their sheet than I did, it's like, let's focus on ourselves.
Yeah. And also could that be a little toxic? I mean, if you came off the field and you felt great about your performance, like you should be allowed to feel that and to not worry about then something you might read in later on a social media post that somebody was, not being positive. And then it's like, well, wait, I felt great coming off the field, so I think,
right.
I hate that has to happen, because I think those in-person experiences and just, too many people have access to have an opinion publicly. So I think it's hard. I think it would be harder. I think back to like, if I was in your generation, I'd really struggle with that a little bit, because you just have so many eyes on you all the time. And it's like telling you, how good you are, what's valid, what's not. And it's like, wait, back in the day, we just, we didn't have that.
Yeah, it's wild. Nowadays, some kids go on tour and they have like 10,000 Instagram followers watching their stories every day while they're on tour.
Yeah.
It's like, you just don't need to engage with all that. That's probably not going to be good for you not ticking in block.
Yeah, I listened to this podcast one time where I think it was Johnny Cash's daughter, and somebody asked her about if she was on social media, and she said, no, I have to stay away from that. She said, because comparison is so hard for me. And she said, and what happens is I never win. Yeah. Like we are hard on ourselves, right? Like if we go down that road, it's hard to come out of that and say, yeah, we won, like we feel good about that.
So the moral of the story is, to all the percussion ensembles out there, you don't have to compare yourself to Pulse. All right, Julie, what do you have a what are we doing for us?
I thought about that. I don't really have probably a great answer. I think my focus is always rooted in music. While I love visually, what's happening these days is so crazy, and what the performers are being asked to do from a physicality standpoint, it's remarkable. It's very athletic. It's amazing. What I see, though, sometimes from younger groups that try to emulate that is there's a little bit of a struggle with they haven't developed a foundation from a technique standpoint yet to be able to really do that and facilitate. And yet I see in the activity, particularly WGI, a little bit more that, these younger students are trying so much visually and things suffer musically. Mm-hmm. And so I would just encourage everybody to get back to the music making first. It is a percussion ensemble. And so, and then build visually and build skill sets, whether you go from A to open to world or whatever, but just do what, showcase what you can do.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good take. I know that there have been some YouTubers lately who have sort of broken down how long are people actually playing in their WGI shows. And some of the most recent high scorers only play for like 3 minutes of their entire show. So I definitely think that's an interesting take.
Yeah, and I think too, it's that.
Great job, everyone. Set your equipment down. Gush and go.
All right. Well, we got that one off our chest. Let's bring some positive energy into the room. We'll do the gush and goes now. It's your chance, Julie, to shout out something awesome that's happening in your life, marching arts related or not. Could be excited about a performance, maybe a student's success, big life event, or just something cool you want to brag about. No negativity here, just pure, unfiltered hype. But Julie, do you got anything you want to gush and go on about?
Oh, that's so hard for me. I'm super excited about this new role for DCI. Really excited about that. I've had so many great students. That's so fulfilling, is to watch students kind of come into their own. And I've had a couple recently that are, kind of reached out and was just really excited. They're doing some indoor, and I can see that spirit in them, what they're building in their programs. And it's just really fun to watch. So I'm excited about that. I am excited about perhaps what Anne brought up about maybe trying to mentor and champion the next generation of women in the marching arts. It's so exciting. I will say that at one of the competitions I was judging a couple weeks ago, I think in Texas, and we had critique. And that was the first time ever, I think, that I probably had at least 50% of the instructors coming into critique that were women.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And it was amazing. And, I saw when groups were coming onto the floor, I saw women leading those groups onto the floor, and you see so many more girls that are playing in every section. And so I'm really encouraged. I hope that I can be the encourager and a champion and a mentor to see kind of this momentum that we have. And I think it comes from both women being more fearless and getting involved. And also I think it has to also come from the men in the activity, accepting and being encouraging in their own right to women as well, and creating a space that we all feel like we all belong. I will say, if I could do a real shout out, I had amazing mentors in my life, or men that were my champions. And one was Dennis DeLucia. I met Dennis when I was 17 at a Music for All camp, basically, before they was called Music for All. Dennis DeLucia, Fred Sanford, both super encouraging to me as a 17-year-old female drummer. Mark Thurston with WGI invited me to come judge back in the early 90s when there were no women judging. And so I've had those men that just saw beyond like any kind of gender bias and just encouraged me and championed me. So I think it's important to have both women and men just opening the space for everybody, right? So I'm excited about that. That's hopefully going to continue to get better.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. I definitely look forward to hearing more about it. I think that that's all like a really good action for you guys to take as, the people leading the way in DCI and WGI. So I'm excited to hear more about it, in the next coming years. But Anne, do you got anything you want to gush and go on about?
Nothing too huge at this moment, but I guess On the Water Break heard it first. I will be with Crossman this summer on the audio team, so we're kind of getting our schedule locked together for that. I think it'll be Crossman's first summer actually with a team of people for the audio, so we're going to be sort of rebuilding the system, getting it a little bit more modernized, and so I'm really excited to get to hop on the road a little bit and help out with that.
Yeah, awesome. That'll be fun.
That's awesome. See you out there.
Yeah, I'll see you out there.
Awesome. And then for me to gush and go real quick, I'm just really excited for WGI Finals. With On a Water Break, we're going to be planning some really cool content, both for Guard Week and for Percussion Week. So make sure you check it out. Hopefully some in-person stuff too. Going on in the tent will be fun. So check it out as we get closer and closer to World Championships. But
hey, it's called Gush and Go, not Gush and Stay. Let's go.
I forgot that was going to come in. Thank you guys both for a great rehearsal this week. Thank you, Anne, for joining me. And thank you to our guest clinician, Julie. Julie, please tell us where our listeners could find you on any of your socials or anything like that.
Sure. So on Instagram, I'm Sister Jules. Sister
Nice.
Jules 9397. Julie Sutton Davila on Facebook, but your generation doesn't do that really anymore. I mean, that's pretty much it. I kind of try to stay off all the other stuff, but Instagram's where you can find me.
Got a question or a good topic to talk to us about? Email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com or find us on social media and DM us if you want to be on the show. We've even got a form now. You can fill it out if you want to be a guest. We love having people on the podcast, so check it out at the link in our bio on our social media. Or you could just take out your phone. You can make a video, send it to us. You might see yourself on the podcast soon. One more thing, don't forget we have a YouTube channel now, so go and subscribe. You can see all of our lovely faces and other shenanigans on the YouTube. Also, before you close out of your podcast listening app, go subscribe, write us a review, and please share it with a friend. Follow us on social media at On a Water Break, and we'll see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Ream. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.